What's good, y'all? Elvis here. So I've been a barber for 10 years, and today I want to go over 10 lessons I learned through 10 years of barbering. I'm probably going to make this video over the course of a day or a few days. So also, these lessons aren't in any specific order. I'm going to be spitting them off as I come up with them. Number one, barbering is not about haircuts. It's about relationships with people. When I first came in, I was so pressed about doing the perfect haircut, having the perfect interaction, this and that. Clients don't even pay you for a perfect haircut. They pay you for your best attempt. That's their best attempt at the haircut, best attempt at making them feel seen, the interaction. You know what I'm saying? People really pay you for your energy and your vibe. And then your energy happens to come with a haircut. Before I was ever good at cutting hair, my personality saved me because people wanted to interact with me. We were similar people talking about similar things. I could connect to them and they could feel seen in my presence. And then they also felt seen more because they got a good or decent haircut. They looked better than they came in and they felt better than they came in. And that's really what I get paid for. Lesson number 2, like attracts like. You can't retain connections with people that aren't at your level. Not in the sense of anybody is inherently greater than you, but I can only get and retain clients that are like me. There are 3 things that make somebody your client: convenience, personal rapport, and perception of value. Convenience is really about time schedules, location and stuff. Similar people tend to be in similar areas. If y'all don't have the same schedules or the same location, they probably won't become your client, but if they do, they probably won't be a client for that long. Personal rapport is the connection you have between people. It's the chemistry. And that's something that happens as you develop yourself. It's hard to have personal rapport with people you don't have shit in common with. Y'all don't have similar interests or similar values or ideologies or any of that. Then it's going to be hard to connect with somebody on that level. Perception of value is the most personal because everybody sees things differently. Everybody perceives things differently. I know for a fact I couldn't ever really charge $70 to cut somebody's hair if I wasn't a person that would pay $70 for someone to cut my hair. There's no such thing as a $100 haircut, a $70 haircut, or a $20 haircut for real. Price you pay is the value you have of this person's time and energy. So that's a perception of value of this person and their service. Convenience, personal rapport, and perception of value are all things you determine for yourself and then find clients that match. I thought I had to hunt and find clients all this time, but realistically, I'm really just creating haircuts that I like for people like me. And the people that congregate around me tend to be the people that have the highest level of connection with me. And then those are the people that are really in my business. Barbering is a business as well as an art and a craft. So everything I'm talking about that has to do with barbering can really be copy and pasted with any other art, craft, or business or any of that. As a barber, first they pay you to cut hair. Then they pay you to not do anything else. Every beginner barber starts off wanting to fully live off their craft. You know what I'm saying? Pay all their bills with cutting hair and this and that. Everybody gets to a point where they've overutilized their time and energy. Then they have to scale their business. But most people think that scaling your business is about cutting more hair, when realistically it's about cutting less hair. It's about creating more value doing other things. Even if cutting hair is the main thing you do and you don't want to spend your time doing much else, adding complementary skills to your skill set is what increases your value in barbering. People don't pay me more because I got better at cutting their hair. They pay me more because the interaction that I create, that I come with, has more value over time. They know that the money problems I'm talking about this year won't be the same money problems I'm talking about next year. And even if they're for somebody who isn't working on their money, they know that being around me, they're gonna get something. You know what I'm saying? Not necessarily get money, but they're going to get some game, some wisdom, some perspective that I'm growing for myself. Most of the people around me now, especially my clients, are educators, mentors, coaches, artists, entrepreneurs. Like they all embody different aspects of myself that I've grown. And I'm also realizing that's what attracted me to them and them to me, because I can smell my clients in a crowded room. Only an RTS nigga will wear something like that. Only somebody with X going on in their mind psychologically will represent themselves in the world like this. And I only can pick up on that because I'm that kind of person. I dress very fucking comfortable. You know what I'm saying? Most of my clients are tech bros. I went to college and didn't finish, but we can sit here at Conversations because we're similar people growing whatever our skill sets are, whatever we're growing to, we're doing it similar. You know what I'm saying? We're doing different things, but we do it the same way. We do different things, but we play the games with a similar level of intensity. So every time I look at them, I know I'm dealing with a variant of myself. What are we on? Lesson number 4. People doing better never have the time to hate. I've been around so many different kinds of mentors and people that have been able to give me game, and I've gotten a lot of criticism in my career. And I'm realizing that most of my criticism comes from people that are doing less work than me. Like, I get constructive criticism from people at least a half step in front of me. But whenever I get criticism from people doing better than me, they have a lot more grace for me because they've been on the same journey. People that are the harshest to you are taking out their internal frustration out on you. And I'm a pot calling the kettle black because sometimes I see my young niggas with a lot of potential and I'm watching them waste it. If I'm coming out harsh on them, it's because I see how much they working with. With the potential I see in these niggas, it irritates me when they squander it because they have more potential than I have, for damn sure. I want to see them do better. But even past that, I know better doesn't always feel good. People only want to do better when they've gotten so uncomfortable with doing good enough. Good enough is really just tolerable. You know what I'm saying? That's not anything that you really have love for. You don't say it's good. You think it's great, or you're trying to improve it past good. So if I'm interacting with somebody and they're being more critical than what's practical, I know that there's some leftover energy coming from whatever they're not dealing with. I like to think I'm an emotionally intelligent person. I know how to manage a lot of the stuff and stresses I got going on, but a lot of times my attitude leak out towards people. I got to check that shit about me. And I know for a fact most people are not equipped with the tools that I'm equipped with. And I can't judge somebody's level of fulfillment off what they got going on in their life because they have a different blueprint than me. When I was going through college, it was a path that made sense from a lot of people's perspective. And it made sense from my own until I got to a certain stage in my own development and I realized what I want out of life. And I realized this is not getting me there. And then I looked at all the people I was around and they're racing to a finish line to be lost. I have more direction and discernment quitting the race halfway than the people that were rushing to the finish line for the race that they were sure about. And if I had that life now, it would feel like hell to me. So as somebody who has went to college, dropped out twice, made it work for myself entrepreneurially, found out, well, I don't want to just be a barber. I also want to do a bunch of other things. Like, I'm peeping that there was no one path that was really going to satisfy my spirit. And anybody else that was going to try to convince me of that doesn't really have an understanding of who I am on a spiritual level. The only person that can talk to me about that is God. So that's the only person I can talk to that about, for real, for real. And if anybody has a right to tell me what is better and how to improve, it's him.
Lesson number 5. Everything worthwhile requires consistency to build. And consistency is going to show up differently. You can't effectively build multiple foundations at the same time. When I was picking up the skill of cutting hair and I was also going to the gym and working on a bunch of other aspects of my life at the same time, I couldn't spend 100% of my energy cutting hair, working out, and just tending to my social life and other emotional and mental needs I have, you know what I'm saying? But consistency isn't showing up doing 100%. Consistency is showing up in putting in what you can. Some days I only have 20% to give to cutting hair or working out, but I give that full 20%. I'd rather take a light day than a day off unless I'm hurting and I need to rest for anything, even cutting hair. When I first started cutting hair, my haircut quality wasn't consistent. Some days it was 80%, some days it was 100, some days it was 60. But I had to put in the effort that I had whatever day for me to grow my capacity over time. And now after being consistent with cutting hair for like 10 years now, it's very hard for people to tell the difference between me giving 100%, 80%, or even 70% because my perception of quality is so high now. Even if my haircuts aren't that good, me being consistent all around makes me an attractive barber because I have professionalism. I make people feel comfortable. People almost always take a mediocre product with great presentation over a great product with mediocre presentation. It's all about being consistent by your standard before anything because consistency is what grows. Consistency is what allows you to build skills and let you do things on autopilot. When I first started cutting hair, it took 100% of my attention to give a 75% haircut. Now it can take less than 30% of my attention to do a 90% haircut. But it's because I built the consistency and I wasn't trying to work on too many foundations at the same time because I had to get good at cutting hair before I really could learn how to talk to people well. If I was worried about having a conversation before I was comfortable just going through a haircut, my mind would be scattered from task to task versus just things working in the background.
All right, so lesson number 6. Peace is not found at the end. It's not found at the beginning. Peace is found in the process. I'm the type of person who I don't slow down and celebrate wins. After I climb one mountain, I'm at the base of another. But I'm realizing that my highest level of satisfaction is always in the middle, in process when I'm executing. When I'm executing on something that's challenging me in all the right ways. It doesn't feel satisfying to make it easy slam dunk. And if I'm slaving for something so impossibly hard that is not internally incentivizing me, at the end of it, it feels pointless. It feels like suffering. That doesn't mean I don't still do it. It's what I got to do. But peace and happiness are things that you don't arrive at. They're things that you cultivate for yourself over time. And that's based off your own understanding of what you want in your life, as well as the things that you've experienced. And as I develop myself, my idea of peace has evolved too. I grew up in a real feminine environment. I've realized that the feminine idea of peace is different than the masculine idea of peace. The feminine idea of peace is the absence of conflict. The masculine idea of peace is the ability to resolve conflict. I used to feel safe because nothing bad was happening to me. Well, the bad things I was concerned about happening weren't happening to me. I wasn't even aware about all the bad shit that was happening to me as a child. But I was concerned about keeping my little corner of the world safe. Safe in the sense of hiding it from danger. I thought the fact that danger wasn't directly around here is what made me safe. Now my idea of peace and safety has nothing to do with that. Now my idea of peace is the ability to resolve conflict. Like I don't feel safe in here just because no one busted in here. I know if someone busts in the door, I know exactly how the fuck I'm gonna handle it. And that's what makes me feel secure. That's what gives me peace. And also just growing my capability as a man over time, I've realized like the stronger you are, the smarter you are, you realize how weak and how dumb you are. Because the more power you build, the more knowledge you build, the more you realize that how much power and knowledge there is out there to build and or accumulate. Like there's always somebody that got way more than you. And if your peace is in the idea of being the most well equipped out of everybody, that can be robbed from you very quickly, very easily. Like danger is always around us. The only way to be safe is to create enough danger that works for you to defend you. As a man, that's being capable to do damage if you need to. Basically like being a conscious crash out. And peace cannot be taken from you. It can only be forfeited. People can make decisions on a societal level that hem me up in all kinds of ways. But they can't take my mind. They can't take my energy, time, and attention. I have to give that up. All right, life lesson number 7. You can only carry what you create the space for. That goes for everything you consider a blessing and a burden. What blessings do you want that you're not creating space for? What burdens that you don't want are you creating space for? There's many times in my life where I had to audit my friends and family and just see like who in my life is actually neutrally or positively affecting me. And most of the times I allowed space for the negative people to affect me because I was being negative to myself. So when I would talk about something and they would down it real quick, it felt normal because that's how I talk to myself. It was a familiar kind of love. But I'm realizing self-love is what we reflect outwards. And most people, what they consider love isn't really love. It's a combination of lust, admiration, and utility. Because love is about your well-being, not about what I'm getting off of you or the feelings I'm getting from you. It's about the action. To love somebody is to see them as they are and try to move in a way that's for their well-being. Not necessarily prioritizing theirs above yours, but self-love is what we reflect outwards. The ways we think we love ourselves is the way we try to love other people. I used to think that loving yourself meant self-sacrifice. I'll do whatever for you. Oh, I'll die for you and this is that. Then later I realized, well, dying for you is easy. Living for you is hard. Trying to do something better is hard. And as I grew my relationship with myself, I started talking to myself better. So then when I got around my old friends and they started downing me, that shit felt like, yo, what's all that about? That's not how I communicate with myself anymore. And that became a problem for them because they were accustomed to seeing a different version of me. But that was also because I wasn't showing up as who I really was. I was showing up as a smaller version of me that took up less space that made them feel comfortable. And then as I grew into who I really am or got closer to who I am, self-actualization and whatnot, I found myself uncomfortable in the space that I was in because it wasn't a place that was built for me. And then over time, I worked on myself and then I found myself around other people that had similar interests, that had a similar alignment. I found myself dealing with higher quality relationships and different problems. And now I'm looking back, like I was doing that to myself because nobody forced themselves to be around. I only created the space for inauthentic people in my life when I became inauthentic and I was comfortable being inauthentic. It's the same thing when it comes to like certain money decisions and just general temptations. For me, women, weed, and work are always the thing that gets the biggest pull on me. But I'm peeping that anytime I was in a season where I was really leaning into my vices, it was because I was creating a space for it by living inauthentically. When you're pushing against your own authenticity and your own natural inclinations and whatever your superpower is, like it might work for some time, but it's just like compressing a spring. That energy is just stored up until it bounces back or breaks. And I'm also neurodivergent. I don't think like most people, and I go through a lot of periods of burnout. And it's always because I'm forcing something that isn't natural to me. But regardless, there's some seasons where you just gotta do what you gotta do. You know what I'm saying? And make do with whatever the result is. So things will never be perfect. But when it comes to all the blessings in my life, I'm realizing how I had to create the space for those before they ever came. Because luck is really preparation plus opportunity. Once you create the space for the blessing to fit in your life, once the opportunity happens, it just plugs and plays. It already knows what to do. And I realized the times I was building my blessings were the times where I wasn't focused on man paying me. Because I realized when you let man pay you, it's harder for God to pay you. When you let God pay you, man can't pay you. So when I prioritized how God was paying me, that just opened up the space for more blessings in my life. And then he sees you a good steward, what he gives you, and gives you more. And sometimes it's money, but the real currency is awareness and attention. Those are the things that hold our creative power. There was a season where I was just over consuming. Like I wasn't creating much. I was just consuming and feeling depressed. But I created space for that burden because I was suppressing my natural creative abilities. Every time something creative popped up that I could do, I'm like, oh no, I'm not really creative. Oh no, I'm not as good as so-and-so and this and that. But that wasn't true. That was just how I felt in a moment. But me conditioning that habit of thought just kept compressing that spring. And then as soon as you start compressing the spring, it becomes easier because it's what you've been doing. And now I'm realizing like it's a spring for a reason, even though this analogy I came up with in my head. But we're meant to flex and bend as we're stressed. You know what I'm saying? We're meant to redirect the energy. That's the way we create for real. A lot of the creating that we do is really just repurposing energy, just channeling it into a different form. Life's gonna compress it to spring, and when we rebound, we send that energy off and we create something new. Your pain turns into passion, which it turns into your purpose. Hey, sorry to interrupt, but if you feel like this content is contributing to you becoming a better barber, artist, or entrepreneur, you would love the ebook I wrote. It's called The Cuts by Elvis Guide to Better Barbering. By no means does this mean that I know the best way to do barbering. There is no right or wrong way to do barbering. There's just better barbering for you. And after a decade of learning to cut hair, as well as learning to become a barber, which are different, I have distilled what I consider the 5 pillars of better barbering, which I've used to grow in my life as well as through my craft. My specific expertise is barbering, but barbering is an art as well as a business. So barbering is really analogous to any craft or business. I'm selling my ebook for $20, but I'm giving it for free if you sign up for my Patreon. There I have all my barber and education content all in one place where I'm going to continue to add and try to turn it into the most valuable resource I possibly can, as well as exclusive content and stuff I have fun with. It's a place for like-minded creatives, artists, entrepreneurs, for people that want to ask me questions or get consultations. That's a good place to go. But if not, no worries. I appreciate you putting your energy into watching my free content anyway. It means a whole lot to me. Thank you. All right, I think we're on lesson 8 now. The 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle, applies to everything. When it comes to your business, 80% of your business is going to come from 20% of your clients. That sounds like an exaggeration, but you'll see over time that most of your business is going to come from the same people, a small percentage. The principle applies to damn near everything else. 80% of your results will happen from 20% of your actions. It's always the small, meaningful things that are the levers that keep us from making actual progress. One thing that frustrates me about listening to barbers is they like to say shit like, oh, I'm watching all these videos and tutorials or whatever, I'm getting better, this is and that. Then I ask them, how much you cutting? And they say, oh, I ain't touched clippers in 2 months. Nigga, you bullshitting with me right now. Like, watching something passively is not the same as actively learning something. Like, you could spend all this time thinking about a haircut, pondering all the different approaches you could take, but what really makes you better is the 20% of the time when you're actually executing on making your skills better. sitting here mentally masturbating about all these different ideas and techniques that other people have about the process doesn't help you if you don't integrate it into what you're going to use. So it's just like, understand that 80% of the energy you spend is going to be on things that are not actually moving the levers forward. Be very intentional about that 20% that really matters. That 20% is just, that's like 1/5 of the time. If you were really intentional with 1 hour of your time a day, you could get you could get the results of spending 5 hours. Just spending 1 hour really focused and really intentional. When I was maybe like 4 years in cutting hair, there was this bitter old head I knew. And he used to brag about, oh, I've been cutting hair 10 years and this is that. And that always felt weird to me because I realized like I was never really comparing the length of time I spent to other people because the quality of our time was very different. He was a barber on and off for 10 years, half-assing this and that. And by all metrics, my business and my lifestyle was better than his. In every way that you could measure it, if we're comparing business to business, lifestyle to lifestyle, like he didn't have me beat in any capacity. He didn't have more freedom of time, energy, or money, or attention. And I charged more than twice his price. So I thought it was weird that he wanted to brag on me, like, but I've been cutting hair all this time. Like, especially because I knew that my 4 years at the time, like, shit on his 10 years. But I also got little homies who 2 years was shitting on my 4 years. It's not even necessarily the time or the energy you're spending, it's the quality of attention that you're spending. Because you're spending attention in the wrong place, you're not going to get the progress. My whole career in college kind of looks like a waste on paper because I didn't end up getting the credential at the end of it. But all the development I did in the season when I was in college and in that environment leveled up my business, leveled up my communication skills, leveled up me as a person. It makes me think about all the busy work I had to do in college and all the tasks that were hoops I had to jump through versus things that were on mission for myself. And at least 80% of that was bullshit. But the 20% that mattered was the self-development I did within myself when I built my own discernment for what my path should be versus just assessing the paths that people present to me.
All right, I think we're on 9. All right, life lesson number 9. Relationships never end, they just change. Relationships are just how we interact with / relate to other people. The person that cuts your hair, that's a relationship. The person that does your taxes, that's a relationship. The person that makes your coffee, that's a relationship. On varying levels. You're going to have some people that start off as a stranger or start off as a customer or a client and then become friends or family for you. You're going to have people that are friends and family that might just mess around and become just a client or someone you know in passing, depending on the season that people are in. But the relationships never really end. They just change. Most people's friends are just failed talking stages, realistically. Because the only difference between a friend and potential love interest is sexual attraction. People that we call our friends are people that we're intellectually, spiritually, emotionally attracted to. You know what I'm saying? Attraction that is not sexual. And everything that's attractive in a person is attractive in a barber. So your life will reflect in your business. A lot of the people I started cutting hair with, I cut now, but we grew through different versions of ourselves and different versions of our relationships to get to where we are now. They're not people that just continually were with me consistently throughout the process. We had seasons where we were falling off or we were misaligned or in different seasons in different directions. But we never stopped doing the background work. So whenever we did show up at the new level, we saw each other and we're like, oh yeah, it's good to see you. You know, I was rooting for you. Even if we had a season where we were disconnected, there's no love lost because self-love is what we reflect outwards. We grew through the relationships with ourselves on a personal level in our own directions. And then when we converged again, we could interact at a higher level. And that's a positive example, but you're going to have a lot more negative examples throughout your life and your career, regardless of what your industry is. I didn't see my friends turn foes and my foes turn bros. The only difference between someone you consider an ally or an enemy is a perspective. The only thing that is the difference is the narrative that they associate with. I've had a lot of homies that were real bros until they started getting jealous of my life because they weren't doing the progress they needed to, and they started acting like hoes. And I done interact with some people that on first impression, you acting like a hoe. Like, I don't know what your issue is. But then sooner or later, they did whatever work they need to do on a personal level, and then they stopped projecting their issue with me. And I know I've been in that position because there was a lot of people I had an issue with before I was confident in my own ability to express myself. So when I saw somebody that could express themselves, I felt like, oh, you're being extra. Why don't you just fit into the mold that everybody gets pushed into? But that was just me pushing my perspective on them, because from their vantage point, like, they're not in a mold. They don't even see people in molds. I was fitting myself into something that didn't work for me. So I kind of had that expectation for everybody around me. And as I changed, my relationship with the world and everybody else changed. Okay, lesson number 10. Success is relative. And relative, of course, because everybody's definition of success is different, specific to them. But then also relative in the sense of you're only really as successful as the 5 people you spend the most time around, because it's not even a matter of life circumstances being the same. The relationship you have with other people is based off the relationships you have with yourself. At a certain point, I thought that I was successful when I was booked up. And I was booked up at like $15, you know? There was a period of time where I was consistently booked up for 2 to 3 years, 2 to 3 weeks in advance, all year round. And that was maybe until my price got to like $40, and then I started scaling my business differently. My success wasn't built up off of my idea of what the demand for my business was. The demand for my utility was, realistically, because I'm not a person who even care about having a business. I care about being useful. That's the thing that kind of gives me a high in life, like being the person that can solve a problem, because that's how I show love to myself. So that's how I show love to other people. So when people deny me the opportunity to solve problems, I'm kind of like, that's what I would rather be doing anyway. And as I've gone through different seasons, I've realized like there's a point in time when I used to feel successful when I was being overutilized / used. I was around a lot of people who wanted a bunch of discounts, people who wanted just my energy, because my energy was more valuable than the money I was charging. And even when they had an opportunity to pay me the cheap money price, they still tried to get discounts and undercut my monetary price when they were taxing me on the energy in the first place. And that's what the real transaction was. So when I say success is relative, the metric of success for me was the habits of the 5 people I spend the most time around, because your environment influences you as well as you it. But to influence your environment requires like conscious control and attention. And that's a taxing process. But your environment is what you sleep in, what you bathe in, what you're consuming. You can't overpower or like outwill your environment fully. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can influence your environment to have a positive feedback loop with you, like where if I'm a person who thrives in an introverted setting, I can work to be in a more introverted friendly setting. Now it's easier to do what my natural shit is. But 10 years ago, the 5 people I spent the most time around were people that were aspiring for mediocre things. I'm talking about not even as far as like life circumstances and monetary things. I'm talking about they were settling for good enough relationships, good enough circumstances. Everything in their life was just tolerable, and they complained about everything. And I saw those habits manifest in myself. And I was a person who had a negative perspective about most things if you asked me. But then I decided I actively want to change that, and I branched out, got by myself, talked to God, tapped in with a few people that I wanted to be like or inspired me or I felt resonance with, and then I rebuilt a new starting 5. I've done that many times over the course of this, like my 10-year career. But I'm realizing that you never actually feel like you arrived. The goal is a traveling goal with the trajectory of the people that you're around and just the environment you create for yourself. If you ask me about any given topic in the world or personally 10 years ago, I probably have a negative perspective to give you. If you ask me the same thing now, it's significantly more optimistic, and I really feel like people people say like they be in their villain era, and I feel like I was like born a supervillain low key, and now I'm just in my hero arc. Because way back when, I was very hello darkness, my old friend. But now I'm a person who just like, I can't help but see a spark in the darkness. I'm just so focused on the light now. And, I guess success is relative in the sense of, money can't buy you happiness, but, it's up there with oxygen. You feel me? So it's a necessary thing to deal with.
but you can't put your love of anything on the pedestal that is for art creator source. You know what I'm saying? Like, tapping in with that is usually what, like, always realigns me in whatever season. Whenever I gotta go back to the drawing board, it's always based off a conversation I have with him. You feel me? If y'all got this far in the video, you got a special place in my heart. I appreciate you. If you have any lessons from your career in barbering, or you got any value, want to add something, go ahead and feel free to comment down below. Go ahead and follow your boy at Cuts by Elvis and at Better Barbering. I got courses, ebooks, and consultations available. Link in the description. Also, check out my Patreon. All right, appreciate y'all. Till next time, Craft of a Clout. I'm out.